Don't do it, it's too risky. Those were the words that haunted Arjun every single night. Arjun was a young man with a steady job in a bank. Safe. Predictable. Comfortable. Everyone around him admired his stability. But deep inside, Arjun carried a dream that made his heart race every time he thought about it. He wanted to open his own restaurant. Cooking wasn't just a hobby for him, it was his passion, his way of expressing love, creativity, and freedom. But every time he mentioned it, people laughed. His parents said, "You'll lose everything." His friend said, "Do you know how many restaurants fail?" His boss said, "Why risk a good job for something so uncertain?" And so, Arjun lived with two voices battling inside him, one whispering safety, the other shouting freedom. At night, he imagined his restaurant, bright lights, people enjoying his food, laughter filling the room. But in the morning, he wore his suit, walked into the bank, and buried that dream under paperwork. Fear kept him chained. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of risk. Then one day, sitting at his office desk, Arjun overheard an older colleague say, "If I could go back in time, I would take more chances. I played it safe all my life. Now I only wonder what I could have been." Those words hit Arjun like lightning. He realized something terrifying. The risk of trying and failing was painful, yes, but the risk of regret was far worse. That night, he stared at himself in the mirror and said, "If I don't try, I will never know. And I would rather fail chasing my dream than succeed at living someone else's life." And with that decision, the journey of risk began. The next morning, Arjun walked into the bank and handed in his resignation letter. His boss stared at him in shock. "You're leaving a stable job for cooking? Are you crazy?" Maybe he was crazy. But he was also alive. Arjun borrowed money from a local bank, rented a small corner shop in the market, and began building his dream restaurant. It wasn't glamorous, old walls, broken chairs, paint peeling off, but to him, it was magic. He worked day and night, painting the walls himself, fixing tables, designing menus, and practicing recipes. But reality hit hard. On the first day of opening, only 2 customers showed up. On the second day, none came. Days turned into weeks, and Arjun's savings started shrinking. Doubt crept in, maybe they were right. Maybe I made a mistake. One night, he sat in the empty restaurant, lights dim, staring at unpaid bills. His hands shook as he held his head. The voices of his parents, friends, and boss echoed in his ears, "It's too risky. You'll lose everything." But then, another voice rose inside him, the same voice that once dreamed of this place. "Yes, it's risky. But giving up now is the biggest risk of all." So Arjun doubled down. He started giving free samples to people in the market, smiling, talking, sharing his passion. Slowly, curiosity turned into customers. Customers turned into regulars. And regulars brought friends. Arjun discovered something: risk doesn't reward immediately. Risk tests you first. It asks, "Are you serious? Will you keep going even when no one believes in you?" The restaurant wasn't a success yet, but it was breathing. And so was Arjun. Months passed. Business improved, but it was still fragile. Then disaster struck. A new, big restaurant opened across the street. Bright signs, modern decor, flashy advertisements, it was everything Arjun's small shop wasn't. Within days, his customers started drifting there. Sales dropped. His staff worried. Some even left. Arjun was devastated. He felt like all his risks were collapsing. One evening, as he sat outside his restaurant, watching people flock to the shiny new place, he felt tears burn his eyes. For a moment, he thought about quitting. Selling the shop. Going back to a safe job. But then, he remembered why he started. He didn't open this restaurant to compete. He opened it to share his love for food. So he made a decision: instead of copying the big restaurant, he would focus on what made him different: personal touch, unique flavors, and authentic care. He introduced special dishes inspired by his grandmother's recipes. He personally greeted every customer. He treated each guest like family. Word began to spread: Arjun's food has soul. The flashy restaurant across the street had lights. Arjun's little shop had heart. And people chose heart. Slowly, the tide turned. Customers returned. Sales grew. For the first time, Arjun saw profit. And he realized, failure is not the end of risk, it's part of it. Every setback teaches you how to rise stronger. Success didn't come overnight. It came through countless sleepless nights, burnt dishes, arguments with suppliers, and moments of self-doubt. But through every storm, Arjun reminded himself, the risk is worth it. Years passed, and his restaurant grew. He expanded to a second branch, then a third. He hired staff, trained chefs, and built a name that people trusted. But here's the most powerful part: it wasn't just about food anymore. His story became an inspiration. Young people came to him saying, "We want to chase our dreams, but we're scared." And he would smile and reply, "Everything worth having comes with risk. If you want a safe life, stay in your comfort zone. If you want a meaningful life, step into the unknown." Arjun's journey proved a truth most people ignore: success is built not by avoiding risk, but by embracing it, again and again, no matter how many times you fall. And in the process, he discovered something deeper: risk isn't about money or business. It's about courage. The courage to trust yourself when no one else does. 10 years after quitting his job, Arjun stood in front of a crowd at the grand opening of his 5th restaurant. Cameras flashed, people cheered, and his parents, once doubtful, now stood with pride in their eyes. He shared his story on stage, his voice steady but emotional: "When I left my safe job, people called me foolish. Maybe I was. But I'd rather be foolish for chasing my dream than wise for killing it. Risk is not the enemy. Regret is." The audience clapped, some with tears in their eyes. They weren't just celebrating a restaurant, they were celebrating a man who dared to risk everything to follow his passion. Arjun looked around and realized, the risk he once feared had given him more than success. It had given him freedom, growth, and a life worth living. And then he spoke the words that stayed with everyone that night. Life will always demand risk. The question is, will you risk your comfort for your dreams, or will you risk your dreams for your comfort? Choose wisely. Because the greatest risk is not taking any risk at all.